no headway in breaking the logjam?
That's a good question to start with, but negotiations are a time-consuming process. If there are issues which have to be clarified, it does take time. So I'm not so concerned about time-consuming exercise, but what worries me at this stage is those protesting farmers are probably not specifying the issues on which they want the negotiations. After all, the concerned minister, Agriculture Minister Tomar ji and Piyush Goyal ji are both sitting and saying we are quite okay with talking about every aspect of the law, the 3 laws which have now become the law of the land. So I think the process is getting a bit stretched because specific concerns are not being voiced. There's a lot of talking from the side of those who are representing the farmers, who are still not very specific on what is it that they are concerned about.
Okay, ma'am.
And therefore it's going to...
Yes.
Yeah.
Because despite the government's assurance that MSP won't be touched among all other concessions, the farmers are adamant on their single point demand that these laws must be repealed because they are saying that ye kala kanoon hai. Is rollback an option?
But Maria, where is MSP linked to this whole debate? The 3 laws have nothing to do with MSP. First, let that be clear. MSP continues, in fact continues better with Prime Minister Modi. 2014 till 19 and 19 till now, we've had record procurement at good prices, and the quantum procured is also like never before. So linking MSP to this debate is absolutely unrelated, although it relates to the farmers as a concern. As regards the law, I'd like to say, what about the law in which any of the political opposition parties can stand up and say, no, this is not what we stood for. They all stood for these very things. And today, now, seeing a political opportunity to join a group of farmers who are seeking clarification is just sheer optimism from the side of the opposition parties.
Well, we'll be talking about politics in just a bit, ma'am, but because, farmers are saying that MSP for crops be made an entitlement, not mere a policy announcement. How far is the government willing to go to accommodate the farmers' demands?
Well, I think it was made very clear that the MSP is not part of the farm laws. These are just very clearly issues which are being brought about in this context, when the data shows clearly MSP is out of the farm laws and it continues like before. Where are they linked? So if this protest is against farm laws, where is the MSP in it?
Ma'am, one thought is that why are the farmers of only Punjab protesting while Punjab is biggest producer of wheat? What about farmers of rest of India? Because farmers in many states, and we have seen those success stories, have welcomed the new laws. Can one set of people force the government to withdraw a national law even if it is for the larger good?
Well, first of all, even if it is for the larger good itself is addressed. What is for the larger good? The farming laws are for the larger good. And if there are some farmers who have doubts about it, we can speak about it. So, rolling back of the farm law as a demand cannot be on the grounds of larger good. Larger good rests in the fact that farmers all over the country are coming out with clear anecdotal and experiential examples of how they stand to benefit. Didn't you come to know of that particular case of a Maharashtra farmer who, not getting paid in time, approached the district collector in Madhya Pradesh from where the trader was, who got paid because of the district collector ensured that the payment was done in time. So repealing of the laws for the larger good just doesn't hold water.
What is the
But if they are asking about some aspects, yeah.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
But if they are asking about some aspects of the laws in which they are confused or in which they are not sure, the ministers are ever ready to answer those clarifications. Now, from the press meets of the ministers who have been engaged in this negotiation, whether it is Narendra Singh Tomarji or Piyushji, it's very clear that the representatives who are attending the negotiations on behalf of the farmers are not putting their finger on those specific issues which are causing concern for them. Contract farming exists in Punjab, exists in Maharashtra, where Congress party is in the ruling, and they have never thought of repealing it. Whereas when it is part of a central law, there is so much of confusion about it. It is already existing in Punjab and in Haryana and in Maharashtra and in Gujarat and in Karnataka. So contract farming is not one thing for somebody and one other thing for the central law.
Yes, and what is the possible solution?
And as regards the prices?
To current stalemate, ma'am, because some experts are saying let Punjab decide its own destiny, leave it to the state government entirely. Is that possible? It has also been proposed that the government should completely withdraw free power and other subsidies and in turn put more money directly in poorest farmers' accounts.
See, these are solutions which people can come up with. These are solutions which people can come up with because they're not at the negotiating table. And even with Prime Minister Modi and the government of the day in Delhi ready to sit and talk, talking is not happening, whereas protests are continuing even as talking is happening, which itself in principle, if you look at it, defies the principle of goodwill, where if you're starting to talk, please engage in the talk. And if you think that the government is not responding, and in this case responding also in written, the government is on its own given a written reply. So that's where I think the minister's statement, Piyush Goyalji's statement, that probably this whole negotiation has been hijacked. The farmers' protest, which is on questions of they not being clear, probably is gotten hijacked by such elements for whom protest in India is now becoming an exercise to recover some of their lost ground, bring the brotherhood from all over the world, and also have all their old boys associations stand up and speak from their respected think tanks centers, and also those who have a column space available for publishing in global newspapers to publish articles against this government. Sum and substance of what I want to say here, Maria, it looks as if these are all windows of opportunity for those disgruntled elements which are hijacking every protest to destabilize this government.
Ma'am, since you're talking about this, the protesters have been linked to Khalistanis, they have been called ultra-leftists and Maoists. These protests have been dubbed as also those by rich farmers and middlemen or commission agents. Would you agree that these accusations have further vitiated the atmosphere and it is in fact leading to perhaps mistrust?
Maybe, because that can be one of those arguments which the farmers can say, oh no, look, this is what we are being dubbed as, and so on. We have not stopped talking with them. They are welcome to come and sit and talk as farmers. But if you as media, for instance, are able to go to the ground and see the kind of demands which are getting latched on to this protest, and also the letters which have gone to the negotiating ministers, now adding on issues which have nothing to do with agriculture or the farm laws. Release so-and-so who's being held for some other, Naxal-related crimes. release so-and-so who has been working on some other issue which has nothing to do with the, the farm-related issues, but Article 370. Who is doing all this? I call upon the farmers who want to engage with the government to distance themselves from these elements and say, we have nothing to do with them, we are here as farmers, we want to talk with our elected government. I would honestly request farmers to please distance themselves from those who are latching on to every protest in this country only for them to take out their frustration that they are not able to, win a political argument against this government because this government is doing everything transparently. Now, if each of them are, shopping from one to another protest because they have something personal, visceral against the Prime Minister, I think this is the time that the farmers who are genuinely coming from all parts of Punjab and Haryana and so on, it is time for them to distance themselves from these elements.
Ma'am, the Prime Minister has said reforms will give farmers new markets, access to technology, help bring investments in agriculture. A majority of agriculture economists agree that farm bills were long overdue for agricultural reforms. Despite its best intentions, would it be fair to say that the government failed in communicating the message to the farmers and the finer points were lost in translation?
Well, there's always a reason that we can look at for any developing situation. The government, not just this government, for last 20 years, governments of different colors and hues have had this discussed, have had this, looked in through various committees. Various committees have gone through several iterations, and after that, it had come to the Parliament. In Lok Sabha, it was elaborately discussed, and the minister gave point-on-point answer for every question of the opposition. And Agriculture Ministry has come out with the data to show how many stakeholder consultations had happened, how many farmers were engaged in this conversation, and if all that happened, post which the Punjab government also chose to say, right, we are going ahead with our own laws. We have not treaded, we as Government of India have not treaded onto the state list at all. These farm laws are invoking that which is in the central
Procurement policy which favors a handful of states.
When we say mandatory, Maria, let us understand one thing. If there has been one crop season within a year, that is 12 months, there are two in a year. If the MSP has not been provided in even one crop season, then there's a reason to doubt that MSP may not continue, and therefore there's this fear that you might altogether let it go and you want to hardwire it. But I'm telling you that even now, the maximum procurements are happening even as we speak. So, I can't understand. And also, look at what the Prime Minister has done. As soon as he came to power, he said, look, I want to double the farmers' income by 2022. He's putting money into their accounts, direct benefit transfer of 6,000 rupees. Fertilizer subsidy is given, and not one state saw in the last 6 years a day's shortage of fertilizer supply. I have this time during the Atmanirbhar package